In this series, I'm going to be sharing some tools and frameworks to help you better help the musicians in your charge to stay healthy and avoid injury. There's so much that can be said about this topic, but it cannot be overstated. You create the culture that influences the thoughts and actions of the musicians in your charge. While it is true that no one has lived in this time period before, and while it is true that in order to grow, we need to employ some serious self-discipline, the fact is, compassion and accountability are just two sides of the same coin of culture. Injury prevention habits, both physical and mental, must be ingrained into students from the moment they pick up their instrument for the first time. We get into trouble when the foundation is just accountability and then compassion is just a passive afterthought that often falls on deaf ears because all the musician hears is that they aren't good enough. What are you doing to help them become good humans first and great musicians second? Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today's episode is part one of a three-part series dedicated to educators, contractors, managers, and anyone in a leadership position that interacts with musicians on any level. In this series, I'm going to be sharing some tools and frameworks to help you better help the musicians in your charge to stay healthy and avoid injury. If you aren't someone that fits this category, maybe you're an injured musician of some kind, make sure you stick around too, because this may shed some light on your own experience. And honestly, I will need your help on getting this message to those leaders in your life. Hey, real quick, sorry to interrupt the episode, but if you are a musician who's going through an injury right now and you feel like you could use some extra help or some extra coping strategies to help you get through this really sucky, difficult experience, head to musicianunchained.com/let's hang to see if a coaching relationship would be right for you at this time in your recovery. Okay. Enjoy the rest of the episode. I've had the topic for today's episode on the back burner for a while. In my undergrad, I started out as a music education major, and I absolutely loved learning about how to create a stellar band program in public schools. Since my injury, I have pondered and puzzled over how to help music educators equip themselves with tools to both help their students prevent injuries as well as themselves, and how to react when a student comes to them with an injury or with any sort of pain. Having spent more than half of my life in the music education system as a student, I have seen the difference in what makes a great educator and what makes a bad educator. I know that so many educators who listen to this show have a sincere desire to help their students stay healthy and help them reach their goals. And this goes for educators in the elementary music classroom with their beginning band class, to collegiate studio professors, or even freelance musician contractors and professional orchestra directors and personnel managers. The fact is, it's pretty much everybody. We all have a responsibility to develop these principles in service of the musicians in our charge. So today, I'm going to give you a couple of frameworks to help you do that. We are going to start with injury prevention, and I call this framework the 3 C's of injury prevention. The first is culture. What are you doing to elevate the culture of your program? So many studies have shown that injured musicians conceal their pain and their injuries from their colleagues and superiors for fear of judgment and retribution. This does not only go back to the culture we create, because there's obviously internal, personal factors that each musician deals with that leads them to make a decision like that. But what are you doing to build the relationships with your musicians so that they can come forward if they are struggling with those things? Because if they can't come talk to you about their weekend, how are they going to come talk to you about pain that they're going through because they fear that you are going to give them consequences related to their playing? There's so much that can be said about this topic, but it cannot be overstated. You create the culture that influences the thoughts and actions of the musicians in your charge. As past guests of the show have said, teaching is sacred. And I would add to that list contracting musicians, conducting musicians, and any position of leadership in the music industry is a sacred opportunity to create a culture of growth and creativity with those musicians. The one thing I would like to address in this episode with culture is my take on the debate currently going on in our world if we are too hard or too soft on music students today. I honestly believe that arguing for or against either one tends to swing the pendulum too far in either direction. To me, the reason why is because we are creating an either or scenario when it should be a yes and situation. Because who doesn't like a good moral paradox, right? The too harsh argument posits that we need to treat our students with more compassion because we don't know what today's students are going through. We've never been through what they're going through now, and we need to cut them some slack. The too soft argument posits that in our quest to be more compassionate, we enable students to slack off, to not be accountable to their goals or to their profession and colleagues. While it is true that no one has lived in this time period before, and while it is true that in order to grow, we need to employ some serious self-discipline, the fact is, Compassion and accountability are just two sides of the same coin of culture. You, as the director or personnel manager or studio professor, have the responsibility to help create an environment in which students are not afraid to trial and error, an environment where mistakes are nothing but something to learn from and move past as teachers. An environment where, yes, there are consequences for complacency, but they are built on a foundation of compassion and trust. We get into trouble when the foundation is just accountability and then compassion is just a passive afterthought that often falls on deaf ears because all the musician hears is that they aren't good enough. There are other nuances to building this culture that I won't get into, but I encourage you to start reading up on servant leadership and growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Hey, sorry to interrupt the episode yet again, but I wanted to tell you that if you are also a music educator of any kind and you feel like this is a conversation that needs to be had for your program, please reach out to me at clark@musicianunchained.com and we can talk about how we can collaborate together to bring these topics, to bring these strategies to your program to help your students stay as healthy and as happy as they can while pursuing their passion. Keep on keeping on and continue watching the episode. This leads me to the next C, which is to curate. One of the things that educators especially may overlook is the importance of programming the music. Especially with younger musicians, when programming recitals and concerts, the physical and mental health of musicians must be taken into account. All this requires is a more intentional look at the physical demands of the pieces you are programming into recitals and concerts. For brass musicians, are they spending excess time in the upper register? For pianists, is there a ton of fortissimo playing without any respite? I'm obviously not saying to never program those pieces. That would be educationally ineffective. Learning how to access those musical features healthily is a part of every musician's educational journey. But are we programming those back to back in a way that doesn't provide adequate rest for the musician? I know you feel pressure to deliver a good program to the public, and we'll talk more about this more in the episode about responding to injury as an educator. But this cannot come at the expense of the health of your musicians. These are human beings, not cattle, and they deserve to have input into the product that they are helping to create. If they are telling you that their program is more taxing than they can handle, listen and adapt if needed. Remember in your education classes how we learn about the zone of proximal development? So we choose music that will challenge but not incapacitate. This may sound a little reductive, and there are nuances involved, but the principle is the same. Your musicians are humans, not livestock. And this takes humility on your part as an educator and a desire to actually communicate with your musicians about their experiences. The second part of Curate has to do with your professional development. What are you doing to educate yourself about the intricacies of the instruments in your ensemble? And here I'm especially talking to you beginning band instructors and the educators that work with young musicians. Injury prevention habits, both physical and mental, must be ingrained into students from the moment they pick up their instrument for the first time. Okay, last interruption, I promise you. Before we get to the rest of the episode, I just wanted to let you know that if you're a musician going through an injury and you need a community to help you get through it, if you need a sense of support, some people you can ask questions to, just gain a pick-me-up whenever you need it, the Musician Unchained support group, formerly known as the Trust the Process Podcast Injured Musician Support Group on Facebook. The link is in the description below for you to join. You don't have to go through this alone. Keep on keeping on and enjoy the rest of the episode. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. It scares me when I talk to educators who are phenomenal musicians, but they can't talk about the risk factors of injury for their own instruments because they just don't know. Are you aware of the nuances of posture, breathing, equipment, how the body interacts with the instrument, etc.? These things need to be common knowledge if you are teaching these instruments to musicians, especially beginning musicians. What improvements can you make there, guys? I invite you to take action on them, whatever they are. I'm not trying to guilt trip you. I'm just trying to point out what needs to happen if you're going to be an educator. And lastly, what are you going to do to develop personally and professionally so that you are in a greater position to create the culture that we talked about before, to become a better leader and a better educator? This will not only benefit you as a human in your personal life, but the musicians in your charge will notice a difference and thank you for putting in that effort in your personal life. And the last C is to coach. What are you doing to educate the students about their instrument, their body, and how the two need to interact in order to help them reach their goals that they are working so hard to achieve? They need to not only be made aware of the risk factors for injury, but how to actually succeed on their instrument, and also know the physical and mental measures and tools that need to be employed to help prevent injury and play healthily. And guys, let's just take a step back, zoom out, and think about it. What other industry doesn't have safety measures in place to help the employees execute the duties of their jobs safely and efficiently? Because here's the truth. You are the OSHA of injury and pain prevention for your students. And NASM requires that collegiate music programs have something in place to show that the music programs are taking measures to keep their musicians working healthily. So what measures are you taking? And in your heart of hearts, ask yourself, is that measure that is being taken there to just check a box for NASM? Or is it a proactive action-based solution to help musicians succeed healthily? Furthermore, what are you doing to help them develop the mindset that they need to work diligently, but also healthily and efficiently? What are you doing to help them become good humans first and great musicians second? Because I promise you that the more you focus on this, again, I'm talking about the section on culture as well, as the quality of their lives go up, and I'm talking encouraging and fostering good habits, hobbies, and relationship as much as their musical habits. Because the truth is, as the quality of their life goes up, the quality of their musicianship will also go up. But it's going to be built on a healthier foundation of themselves and not their identity being choked up in their instrument and their piece of plumbing we call a musical instrument, right? I'm not saying you cross the boundaries rightly set in place to maintain appropriate professional relationships, but are we seeking to be the sage on the stage or the guide on the side? And I share these 3 C's with you not to condemn anyone who hasn't employed any of these measures yet, but to encourage you to start. Creating a culture of growth and compassion, curating healthy music performing scenarios, and fostering professional personal development in yourself, as well as coaching your musicians to do the same, are 3 keys to helping your musicians grow while helping them to stay healthy in the process. The health of your musicians is not just your responsibility. It ultimately falls on their shoulders themselves. But you as their leader play an immensely critical role in their injury prevention efforts. And next week, we will talk about the role you play in their injury recovery journey. So thank you for all you're already doing for our musicians, but we can always do better. What is the one thing you can start implementing right now in your program? And then, as my granddad says, plan your work and work your plan. So thank you for joining me today. I hope that this has been helpful for you as educators. I know that the people that are listening to this show probably aren't the ones who mostly need to hear this message. So please share this with everyone around you, your colleagues, people that you meet at conferences and stuff like that as you're doing your professional development. I believe that if these things can be put in place as common practice, then we'll actually start to see the injury rate in musicians go down a little bit. And our musicians will be actually more proficient in their instruments as well. So those are my thoughts. Do all those podcasty things like and subscribe and share and join the newsletter on my website on musicianunchained.com, and keep on keeping on. We'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode of Trust the Process, the official podcast of Musician Unchained, the newest coaching program dedicated to helping musicians navigate and overcome injury. But before you go, I have a few quick ways you can stay connected and support our growing community. If you found value in today's episode, consider making a donation to support our mission of empowering musicians worldwide. Every contribution helps us create more content and resources for you. So visit link number 2 below to support the mission. If you decide to donate, I'll send you my newest resource, the Injured Musician Toolkit, which is an ebook designed to give you tools to help you get through your injury. Subscribe to our newsletter to get exclusive insights, tips, sneak previews of episodes, and announcements straight to your inbox. Act now and I will send you a free gift. So sign up at www.musicianunchained.com/newsletter. And if you or someone you know would like to go deeper with me in the topics of injury and mindset, head over back to musicianunchained.com and check out the Let's Hang tab. As always, I want to thank Daniel Baldwin, my audio engineer, and my sister Dana Lovell for her help with the promotional materials. There is no podcast without them. But before I go, I want to tell you how much I deeply appreciate your time and support. You are not alone on this journey. There are musicians and educators out there who need this resource, and we need to get it to them. Together, we are breaking the chain of old habits and thought patterns that don't serve us anymore, and unchaining the potential within ourselves to face each challenge with strength and resilience. So, as I always say, keep on keeping on and keep trusting the process. Until next time.